this video, I'm going to talk about a stock analysis system that I'm building, which is VyasaQuant. VyasaQuant is a comprehensive stock analysis system that evaluates Indian stocks through multiple rounds of fundamental analysis to provide a buy or sell recommendation based on stability and intrinsic value calculation. Now, let me take you through the system architecture. So there are majorly six core components. The first one is the data acquisition agent. So what it basically does is it acquires data from various sources like Google, NSE, Yahoo Finance, etc. Then the second is the data processing layer. The data processing layer will process these data acquired from various sources and convert them into MCP tools for usage by agents. So there are majorly two agents utilized in this system. The first one is the stability checker agent and the second one is the value analysis agent. So what the stability checker agent does is it checks the stability of the stock based on its EPS. So once this stability check is passed, then it moves on to the value analysis phase, which is performed by the value analysis agent. Then there's a recommendation agent which orchestrates the flow of data among these various core components to give out the final recommendation. So this is how the high level architecture looks like. So the user can input the stock's name to the recommendation agent. The recommendation agent will then send this request to the data acquisition agent to fetch the various data, and then it will be converted into MCP tools by the data processing layer. And then the stability checker agent will then directly utilize these MCP tools to fetch the data and perform the stability check and give a pass or fail. So if it passes, it will move on to the value analysis agent, which will perform the value analysis and give its recommendations. The recommendation agent will then give the final recommendation based on the response of the value analysis agent. So now let me take you through the logic of these two agents. So the stability checker agent performs the stability check based on the EPS. So it will fetch the last 4 years basic EPS and then it will adjust them if there's a stock split or issuance of bonus shares in any specific year. Then the EPS across the 4 years must be increasing in order to consider it as stable. Then the EPS growth rate is calculated. If the EPS across the 4 years is increasing and the EPS growth rate is greater than 10%, then the stock passes the first round of stability check and moves on to the next round, which is the value analysis. Now, in the value analysis, what happens is the value analysis agent fetches specific information of the stock like industry, current market price, trailing 12 months average EPS. Then based on that, it will calculate the current PE ratio and it will fetch the industry PE ratio. And then it will calculate the intrinsic PE ratio for the last 4 financial years and then calculate the PE growth rate and then calculate the intrinsic value based on the intrinsic PE ratio. Now it will also calculate the PEG ratio based on the intrinsic PE ratio and the EPS growth rate. So if the intrinsic value is greater than 10% of the current market price and the PEG ratio is less than 1.5, then it will recommend the stock, otherwise the stock is rejected. Now we'll see the actual working of VyasaQuant. So we'll enter the stock's name and then click on the analyze button. So we can see that the first round is completed, which is the stability check, and now the value analysis is being performed. So since the first round passed, we can see that the EPS is increasing and the growth rate is 18.08%. So it passed the first round and then moved on to the value analysis. So now it's performing the value analysis. It's calculating the PE ratios, intrinsic values, and peg metrics. So now we can see that the value analysis is also completed. We can see the value metrics that it calculated, the current price, the EPS TTM, the current PE ratio, and the intrinsic PE ratio. And based on this intrinsic PE ratio, it calculated the intrinsic value of 2384.64 INR, but the current market price is around 4451 INR, so which is very high as compared to the intrinsic value. So that means it does not meet the value analysis criteria, and so the recommendation agent is giving the fail value criteria and asking it to sell. So that is how the VyasaQuant is currently functioning. So the first is the stability analysis that was done, then the value analysis, and then it generated the final recommendation of selling the stock based on the value analysis results.